You're listening to 101 with Tommie Zam. On the 10th episode, we sit down with Ian Smile from CSEF and Skateboard Hall of Fame, talking about skateboarding and life. Let's do this. Hey, what's up, Ian? How you doing?
I'm good. It's Monday. Very much a Monday in 2020.
Yeah, I know, dude. Tell me about that, dude.
Yeah.
How's everything going in California?
It's good. It's finally cooled down a little bit, so I'm happy about that. Parks are tolerable early in the morning. So it's kind of nice being able to get out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys still locked down out there or what?
Yeah, for the most part. Like people are, some people are wearing masks, some aren't at the skate parks. It's hit or miss. Because I have a kid, I'm staying away from people. Just precautionary, but everywhere, I mean, it depends on where you are, honestly.
Yeah,
restaurants are still locked down and stores are still locked down with wearing masks, and who knows, hopefully this isn't forever.
Yeah, you never know, man. I got a feeling this thing's gonna last probably for another year, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hope not, but I want to get back to California.
Yeah, totally.
I'm already over Florida with the mosquitoes and stuff. I'm already out here for a year, and then just had to get away for a little bit just because everything's so locked down out there. I was getting bored. I was like, dude, I gotta go do something. But yeah, let's get into this, dude. Like, tell the audience a little bit about you.
About me, I grew up in New Jersey, home of Mike Vallely and Chris Pastras, and a bunch of other dudes. Grew up in Central Jersey. I grew up actually like 10 miles away from them. They were older, so I didn't know them. Met them out here a little bit, which is kind of cool. But I grew up in like dead center Jersey. In South Brunswick, so I was right by Rutgers. I was kind of between Rutgers and Princeton where I grew up. So Princeton has really good stairs everywhere, which is insane. A lot of marble, and a lot of security guards. And Rutgers was a little bit scrappier, and it was bigger, and it was kind of more city. So skating was cool there, and you could get away with just like finding spots and stuff. And there was like a really good punk scene there. I mean, Bouncing Souls and Lifetime, two of my favorite bands ever from kind of my hometown. So that's really cool. And there was a cool little DIY scene, punk scene. Like I said, the Bouncing Souls were legendary. When I was in high school, they were kind of blowing up, and there was a zine scene, and there's just always kind of cool stuff going on. And it was still small town life. I mean, we were outside in New York, so all that was going on. And, people went in and did the New York thing, and I did a couple times, but I just skated locally a lot. I mean, there weren't parks; they didn't exist in, I'm talking 1988. But like the town I grew up in was famous for this roller rink, the Kendall Park roller rink, and ABF Skate Shop from New Brunswick would do a night on Tuesdays. I think they did it like 88 to maybe 91. And a lot of those cats were there. So it's like, the early Z York crews and all that, like they were taking the train down and skating, and I didn't know, you don't know unless you see them in Thrasher and you recognize someone, you don't know, but that was going on. So that was pretty cool. And it was just like this little roller rink, and Tuesday nights, like from, whatever to 10 o'clock, that was kind of the spot. So it's just like your local curves, local shopping centers, some backyard. Like a buddy of mine down the street had a little mini, so we skated that a lot. So that was pretty cool. And just like building ramps, doing the suburbs thing before everything really blew up in New Jersey. And now there are kind of skate parks everywhere. I mean, thank you, Tony Hawk Foundation, and thank you for everyone else that's been building it. But like, besides the famous Cherry Hill skate park down in South Jersey, which closed in 82 or something, so I didn't get any of that in my life. But I traveled a little bit up to upstate New York and skated a bunch, and then I went out to school in Pennsylvania and skated a lot. So there's like an old skate park called Magic that was an abandoned park, and that was pretty sick. I just told my whole life story in 4 minutes.
No, you're doing good, dude.
And then I was in college, and then I retired. But yeah, so I went out to Pennsylvania, to kind of Amish country, Pennsylvania, and that's another. There was like just small, super small town that no one's ever heard of, and it's kind of a joke that no one's ever heard of it. But Kutztown.
What's it called?
Like Kutztown, Kutztown, and it was like 10 miles west of Allentown, which is like a point of reference for people that know Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So it was like, this is another little town, had really good hills. Main Street was an amazing hill to bomb. They recently, it's kind of funny, they recently got a Tony Hawk Foundation skate park, like in the last 4 or 5, like the last probably 3 years.
That's sick.
Yeah, so like that's pretty rad. But again, it was nothing. There were, I don't even know if there were any like backyard spots. It was kind of just like we went out to Magic, and it was this asphalt park that like a lot of I think Philly people came up to skate it a little bit, but it was just like, it was gnarly. It was totally pitted asphalt, and it had like a bowl. It had a snake run that emptied out into a bowl. It had like a big ditch. It had pump bumps all over the place. Like it was pretty rad, but it was in a field. There's another, like, it went out of business. I think someone sued them, and it existed until, they put houses on it in, 2001 or something.
Yeah. And that's pretty, what was it like skating on the East Coast? I mean, was like with this, was it like the style different? I mean, was it like, what I mean by like how was skateboarding was on the East Coast, like, because you got the West Coast is all fresh, and the East Coast is like all like gnarly streets and all hip hop and punk rock style. Is that what that East Coast skating was like when you were out there?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because I wasn't going into New York, because my parents are from New York, and they were like, oh, you'll get into trouble, whatever the story is there, like, oh, you'll just get into the shit, because like the 80s New York, they left, and I grew up in New Jersey, because like there's a lot of urban blight in the city, and it got pretty gnarly for a while. I mean, you watch Beat Street, and you watch a lot of the movies from back then. Not the Warriors. I mean, that's a little extreme, but like there's just a lot going on. So they just wanted me to grow up in the suburbs. So it's like, the Brooklyn Bank scene, obviously everyone knows about that. Everyone knows about Eli and Alyasha and Jeremy Henderson and Rodney and Bruno and all those guys. And like, Huff, like there are just so many New York legends. And then like, you have Freddie Gall and Vern and like the whole Philly scene and Ricky Oyola and all that shit, Chris Cole, Bam, it's like there was so much going on. And that, like, the Bam crew was like, because they're the same age as me, like all my friends in college, because I went to school in Pennsylvania, all went to high school with those dudes. So it's like, I know I was skating with them somewhere, because like they all looked familiar when they got famous. But again, you're not really paying attention.
Yeah.
you're in college, and you're doing all that college crap. So it's just like people are around, and hey, what's up? You look familiar, and it's cool. But like, yeah, it was different. And like growing up, when I did, it was like Thrasher was everything, because you didn't, especially for me, like I skated with a couple people, super low key, and all I knew about like the quote unquote real skating was what was in Thrasher, and like what was on Skate TV.
Skate TV.
Like, I used to watch that when that came out, and like Skate Master Tate and Matthew Lynn, and it was like that was the shit where you saw Hackett, and you saw Lance talking about shoes and whatever. It was kind of silly, but it was cool because it was like the most stylized thing that like led to that whole like photosynthesis alien workshop aesthetic. It was like weird, super janky cuts, super like oversaturated carving bowls and stuff. And it was just like, that was really interesting to me because I was an art nerd. I ate that shit up when it came out, because it was just something different. And it wasn't like straight up, you look at the Powell videos, they're pretty straight up. It's kind of just shot on Super 8 or shot on 16 millimeter, and you have your standard cuts, but then he was kind of like punk rock thing going on that was really artsy. And I don't know, I kind of stuck with that, being a weird kid, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I grew up. I mean, I used to wake up every Saturday morning or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. It used to come on Nickelodeon. Like I used to
Mm-hmm.
like watch skate TV like it was a Bible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, just growing up watching that Skate Master Tate and then going out there, like, I remember when they did, I can't remember, man, but I know they did like trick tips and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that and everything. I used to go out there and just out in front of my parents' house and just practice on my boards, like
Mm-hmm.
learn what they taught me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was especially pretty cool, you know what I mean? Like, our era when we grew up, it was just, we dressed crazy and listened to punk rock and
Mm-hmm.
just skated. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't give a shit.
Mm-hmm. And that
So
was really, I mean, that was really the first time that you could see skating, because, like, I don't know where you could even get I don't remember seeing VHS tapes at skate shops in 1988. That doesn't mean they weren't there, but that was kind of the first place where you saw it in action, besides seeing like Primo and Diane doing their freestyle routines on, That's Incredible or whatever. Like, there were bits and pieces of it in some movies, Police Academy 4, which might have been later, had some skating. And then obviously like Thrashing and Gleam in the Cube was like
yeah,
87, 89. So it's like there were bits and pieces of it, but like even that was in a movie versus like skate TV, like you could really see people doing slash grinds. And it was just like, it was kind of raw. So that was really interesting, because you're like, that's how you do that. It's not just like a shot sequence.
yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
I can't believe, and I remember I just heard you just mention Gleam in the Cube. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when that came out, me and my neighbors, we used to watch that thing like crazy, dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like the hot thing, Gleam in the Cube.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I mean, they're incredible. They're corny as hell now, but I still watch. Everyone is still watching them, just because
Oh
like
yeah, definitely.
there's a time and a place that like the daggers still rule to this day.
The funniest thing is, I can't remember the actor's name, but when he like went underneath the semi truck, that was like, I watch it
Like
now. I'm
Christian
like,
Slater,
what
yeah,
the hell, dude?
yeah, yeah. And just like the whole, like, his friend had the underground bedroom, and he did the whole like setting up that like metal board scene. Like, it was probably dope for people who didn't know anything about skateboarding. Maybe, I don't know. It might have been just totally lost. I think a lot of that movie is kind of lost, but like there's some cool scenes to it. There's some
Yeah.
cool skating at the beginning of it, and like obviously the downhill. I mean, I think that probably got a lot of people killed, because that was the first time anyone saw sketching behind a vehicle. So like, a lot of people get dragged under buses. So
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
did. I tried to sketch one time behind a car once, man, and
Mm-hmm.
I ate shit so bad, dude.
Mm-hmm. Totally not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it,
Totally
dude.
not worth
Kid,
it.
listeners, don't do it, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Do not try that at home. Do not gleam the cube at home.
No, don't, dude, and don't, man. You don't
Yeah.
even like. If you do it, don't have loose trucks.
Oh, totally. And loose trucks save lives, except when you're sketching.
Oh my gosh, dude. But nah, that's crazy, dude. I totally forgot about Gleaming Cube, and I remember they came out with a video game too for
Mm-hmm.
Gleaming Cube. We used to play all the time, and I think it was at Showbiz or Chuck E. Cheese or one of the
Mm-hmm.
two. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember.
I don't even remember that game. I remember like 720 and Skate or Die, and I remember being chased by bees. Was the don't get chased if you're going too slow, you get chased by bees. So ridiculous. Made by people that didn't own skateboards, which is, I mean, a lot. And we could go down that rabbit hole forever about like the co-opting of skateboarding for selling other shit, but not today, not on my watch. I'm not interested.
But think about it. I mean, when we were growing up, I mean, skateboarding was frowned on. You know what I mean, by the community, by people. They
Mm-hmm.
frowned on us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're a skateboarder, you're a nuisance, or you're in
Mm-hmm.
trouble. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't accepted in the society at all. We were like outcasts. You're a skateboarder, you're a punk, you're a piece of shit. You're not going to do anything in life. You're just going to be a druggie and live on the streets, be a skateboarder.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just crazy to think that, like back then, after you talking about all this stuff like cleaning the cube and stuff like that, and bring back memories of things I remember me growing up, it was a lot different.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's still there a little bit. It's just now there's a different twist because you see, like, I don't want to talk about Shaun White for more than 15 seconds, but like when he did, I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete. Whatever you want to talk about him. When he kind of did the crossover, and like I think that did bring some people over, but I don't know. It's just like everything's complicated when you get on that level, when you get to the pros, and that like it changes perception for some people, but not for others. And depending on how you look, and if you're a clean cut kid, you're more likely to get released by cops. I don't know, Yeah, I mean, everything gets complicated on a long enough timeline.
No, it definitely is, man. It's definitely strange, But it's just crazy because I mean, kids these days don't understand like what us older skaters and been through. You know what I mean? For skateboarding, from the '80s to the '90s, where I remember '80s, or when I was growing up, we used to get picked on and beat up on and harassed by rednecks and whatever.
Everybody,
yeah. Like, even in school, I remember going to school and like, I mean, I used to wear the blind jeans all the time, like every day. I never changed them because I loved them.
But I think also, honestly, like, we play the old guy card because we're older, but like what's kind of cool is, especially now because of the internet, like I've met a lot of people that are way younger than me that know more than me about my shit.
Really?
Yeah, totally. That they're like, oh, have you seen this? And I'm like, no, it happens because the thing is, you have so much more access to information now, and every clip, like I never saw Tempe until years ago. I didn't see it back then. I mean, I was 12 when Tempe, it was like 87 or something. Savannah Slam was around then too. Like I never saw any of that until years ago, not 30 years ago. Once someone uploaded on YouTube, and then you're like, oh shit, there's Danforth pushing Mongo. Like that's pretty cool. So it's like there are kids that want to emulate that style, and they go back because they know that Mike V did some dope shit. Or if you want to do some 360 no complies, you want to go look at some old Ray Barbie parts. So it's like it's cool seeing that because they bring it back and they keep it alive. And like that's what's kind of cool about skateboarding and punk is like the people that I think the people that are core to it and the kids that are core to it are gonna do that. At least I hope they are gonna do that research, and they are gonna say, oh, what came before me? Because like honestly, you have to, I think to create something, it's hard to be totally original, so you have to be influenced by something. So that's when you start digging, and that's why when I left Brooklyn, all the bands sounded like Joy Division. And that's the reality, and that's cool because they found that, and they found that and they related to it. So it's like I want to play off of this. I want to apply this style of keyboard playing or guitar or whatever to what I'm trying to express myself with.
Yeah,
and that's that.
Yeah, and were you in a punk band?
I was for a minute. We were terrible. I played bass poorly.
How terrible were you?
I played a sloppy bass, and it was me, my roommate, and a kid that was on the swim team but could play all kinds of drums. We played like I don't even know. We did like a Peg Boy cover and a Bad Religion cover. You're Only Gonna Die, which is a pretty good song.
That is a good song.
But yeah, we weren't that great. So I did that for a minute, but like I got kind of more into promoting bands in college because I was like, those who can't do teach. that old joke, which is like a bullshit term too. So I don't even like that I said that out loud because it's not true. But because I couldn't play an instrument, I started promoting other bands, and like I did some on-campus shows and some off-campus shows. And I love teachers, and my mom's a teacher, so I'll strike that from the record. Teachers are what are changing the world.
Yeah.
So we should drop that phrase from the vernacular. I wish I didn't say it. Anyway, but yeah, so I started promoting, and like that, you know, that led to me, because I was a punk rocker since, 80, 89, 90. I found Minor Threat and Op Ivy and Bad Brains and SNFU, all pretty much in the same hour. Yeah, just like all in the same hour on one radio show at a Seton Hall, New Jersey. And that got me into like crazy, like New York hardcore stuff. And like, they played a lot of really cool shit. So it's like that, the first hour when I found that radio station, I was like, this is what I need in my life. And I pursued, that whole punk rock thing. And that got me into, focusing on art and focusing on skateboarding. And then as an adult, it all led into kind of community building, which I've always, I think that leads into the next part of how I moved to California, which is like I built a design community in Brooklyn that, I had a regular event that we'd have a couple hundred people show up once a month at a bar to talk about design and culture. And we had some speakers and stuff, and that was really cool. And then, I moved out here. And I guess that leads to the second half of the show of my life, moving to California.
So moving to California, I mean, that's must have been like a big, huge like decision with you,
Yeah. I worked at my last job for almost 10 years. And it was in the travel industry. I was doing design, and the economy kept getting smashed. There's, global terrorism stuff that affects the travel industry and tourism. And there was a volcano that erupted over Iceland, I think, and that was like a huge hit. So it's like, it was a very volatile industry to be in. So my company kind of cut themselves in half. This is end of 2015. And I was just turning 40, and my wife's job is flexible, so she could live anywhere.
That's the best job right there.
Yeah, so kind of she's a chef by trade.
Oh, what? Yeah, so she cooks some good food for you when you get home, huh?
Yeah, totally, the best. And she's Southern, so it's like that's really good. But we were just like, let's go. I never lived anywhere else. I lived in a tri-state area. Far away from where I grew up was Pennsylvania, as far as, where I've lived at 40. So, I've traveled a bit, but I never lived anywhere else. So, 20 years in New York, I said, cool, I'm going to miss pizza and cannolis. And there's some dope art galleries, Jonathan Levine Gallery, showing like Ron English and Shepard Fairey. And like there's a lot of really great culture there. And I missed all that, and I missed Katz's Deli, and the list goes on. But I was like, let's go do something else. My wife's lived kind of in a bunch of different places around the country. And I was like, let's go try. I'm going to try to work in the skate industry. So we kind of just loaded up our car and put our dog in the back of the car and shipped a bunch of stuff and drove across the country over 7 days. And I saw stuff I'd never seen. We drove through Colorado and Moab, and like that was, that in itself was incredible. But she actually found out about the IASK summit before we moved out here, and that's like the skate industry event, So we timed driving out here with the IASK summit. Okay. So the first day, I feel like I just told this story because I just told this story on the CSEF podcast, but like a week ago. But it's of note. I mean, it's some bucket list stuff. So I get to this hotel in Anaheim on the first day in California after driving a 14-hour day. Like, we were insanely exhausted. The dog hated us at that point. So I get in this room, I'm looking around, and it's like Paul Schmidt, Steve Van Doren, like some people I knew, some people I didn't know. Some people introduced themselves, and I was like, oh shit, Jeff Kendall, oh shit. Like, I didn't know what you look like, old. We're all old now,
So you started fanning out, huh? You started like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because like, you see Vision videos in 1989, And then you see someone 30 years later or whatever, it's like, oh, you're that person. Holy shit. So it's like, Steve Van Doren was there. A bunch of the band's guys were there, and just like a lot of industry people. Mickey Vukovic was there from Tony Hawk Foundation. So it's cool just like being in a room with all these name drops, and just like being able to say, hey, I moved here for this. Here's my business card. And, they all have a lifetime of knowledge. So, some of them I kept in touch with and some of them I didn't. But, it was cool to have that exposure just on my first day. And like the most important person in that room was Thomas Barker, who was running the IASC Summit. And he was also running Skateboard Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. So we started talking about skateboarding, and he saw I was really passionate about it. And like me and Tommie are still working on CSEF together, which is super rad. And I'll dig into that in a second. But like, just from that first day, I was like, if you need help doing anything, I'm like, I moved here for this. So he brought me on to Hall of Fame. And the second night was Hall of Fame as a part of IASC Summit. And that I sat down at a table. I had met Bo Brown from the Sims team. Actually, he was on Madrid. I had met him at IASC Summit, and Marty Jimenez, Jinx. So I was like, holy shit, you're Jinx. Like that was pretty rad. And I'm like, oh, you're like one of the most iconic boards ever. And he's two of the nicest dudes in the world. And they're like, oh, come sit with us at Hall of Fame. So we're sitting there with them and GSD.
And the whole time you're fanning out, like sweating. You're like,
of
oh my
course,
gosh.
It's like the second day. And like I sat next to Gary Scott Davis at dinner during the Hall of Fame. And it's just like he invented the boneless one. And it's like, mind blown. Every second another person walked by, and you're just like, holy shit. And like I used to be a pro photographer in New York. So
oh, you were?
Yeah. I shot for Getty Images for a bunch of years. I worked for them for like 10 years on the side, doing like movie premieres and Fashion Week and the Tony Awards, you name it. Just a lot of red carpet stuff and a lot of like private event stuff. So like the first couple times you shoot a red carpet, you're like one after the next. It's like Tom Cruise, Tim Robbins, whoever, down the list of A-listers. And that's just at one event. And after a while you get numb to it. And you just go, so-and-so's here. And you'll say what's up to them and they'll recognize you. And you're like, whatever. Like, it's just work. So it's like the fanning out part. You're just like, I'm here to get paid. After a while, you're just like, I don't even care who's here. You just want to get paid. You get your good shots and you get paid.
And you're out.
You're done. But like with the skateboarding stuff, it's like especially the first time I did it was like the raddest. It was so insane. Yeah. Like the first time I did Hall of Fame is so insane because you're just like, you're going around, you're getting Eric Dressing to sign your board. You're getting all, again, name drop, but it's just like everyone from the history of skateboarding's in one room. And like, that's ultimately, and I'll stop dropping names now, but like ultimately that's what's rad about that is that these dudes are still killing it.
Yes.
And out there skating. And like, if you live not like, you kind of get numb to it too, that you'll be at a park and, Christian will be there and you're just like, hey, what's up? And he'll say, hey, what's up? And that's it. And you don't even,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely true. Cause I mean, you think about it, like, with kids in California, they're so spoiled, because they got all these pros and these AMs, all these skating with all these people. And, people and, someone like you coming, live in New York or whoever those kids that live in New York or others like midtowns and stuff or mid city or whatever it's called, mid whatever. And they don't get to see that, so I mean, when they go when they go do demos, they're packed.
Oh yeah.
But when over here in California, people do demos is not as packed because kids are like, I already seen you.
I'll just see them. Exactly. Yeah. And that's how it is. Like if you have the Do Tour, before you'd have back to back like the Do Tour and Clash at Claremont and, Rumble at Ramona, and it would be just like all in succession. So it's like you knew you'd be the people, if you wanted to see that, it would be accessible to you somewhere at some point. And it's not like, whereas if you're a tourist, you have one shot to hopefully see whoever you want to see that they do tour, But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that was kind of funny is like a lot of people that have lived here forever. I'm like, oh, have you skated the new park? They're like, I don't give a shit. Like, they're like, and they'll say it. They're like, oh, I'm so, I don't. They're kind of over it. It's like it's not that they don't enjoy it anymore, but they don't seek it out because it's been, in a lot of cases, the last 30 to 40 years of their lives. So it's like it's the appreciation becomes different, and I think the normalization of it definitely happens too. That you're just like, oh, whatever. I'm definitely not there yet, but like, I think after the first year, the fanning out chills out, because after a while you just realize, I mean, that's how it was with the celebrity stuff in New York too. It's like you realize they're just normal people, and like what's cool is here they're accessible outside of Thrasher. So it's like if you're at a park, someone might give you a tip. Lance Mountain might give you a tip on something, and it's just like for a kid, that's everything. For an adult, that's everything. For anyone, that's everything. And like that's what's kind of cool about it. And that wasn't something that I ever really experienced on the East Coast.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people that came out of the East Coast and out of the South, they're huge, but I mean, it's just different, it's just different because I mean, when you go to California, you're just like, you're blown. You're like, wow, holy shit. There's fucking Chad Muska's skating down the street. Oh, wow. There's Lisa Steamers hanging out, eating whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, just normal people, but the crazy part is like people who don't understand skateboarding or don't know who those people are, they won't get it. You know what I mean? They will say,
totally not.
That's the ordinary person. But to us, it's like, yo, that's fucking Chad Muska. I'm gonna go hang out with him for a minute, It's crazy, to think about that, about skateboarding and how no matter how old you are, how young you are, and if you've been skateboarding for so long or you just started skateboarding, you're always going to have that moments when you're surrounded by certain people. You know what I mean? Like there's some, I'll admit it, there's sometimes when I skate, I see a bunch of, rad dudes I watch skating. I'm like, dude, I'm going to go sit down for a little bit, dude. Yeah. I'm a little intimidated just a little bit, I'm just going to chill for a minute,
Yeah, and I mean it's also like it's harder to turn it off. Like when I skated in New York, I skated. There was a little park out in Brooklyn that had some transition that was pretty rad called Owl's Head, and out by the piers on the west side of New York, like there were some parks and stuff, and it was cool. But it's like it's so not even close to how it is out here.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it's just it is so different.
And
I never ran into anyone out there at all. It was always kind of abandoned when I skated out there.
Really?
Yeah. I totally just lost my train of thought where I was going with that, but it happens.
All right, dude.
It's been a long day.
But it's so funny because when I talk to kids, that they always tell me, when I talk to people, like, oh man, the roads are out there are so smooth, and they have the best curbs that can slide forever. And honestly, it's kind of true. I mean, they do have some nice roads and red curbs that slide and grind forever,
Some, but yeah, I mean, skating around New York, it's different because the variables are different. There's a lot more trash in the street on a lot of streets where you want to skate, and a lot of people hit just weird spots down the financial district that it'll be bump to bar kind of stuff, or like all the basement doors that you could hit, and it's like you never know what you're going to get into. It's such a different ball game out here. Everything's perfect for me. Everything's perfect. Like I've skated some janky skate parks, and it's still pretty good. I compare everything to Magic Skate Park in Pennsylvania, which was the asphalt place. It's like everything out here is pretty good. But yeah, so jumping back to the
Yeah,
Hall of Fame
definitely,
stuff, so
definitely.
it's like,
Well, let's get back into Skateboard Hall of Fame. Tell me a little bit about skateboard. How's that all work out?
how does it all work out? So I've been, I'm not on the board. I'm not on the executive board. That's all legends. Glenn Friedman's on the board. Hackett's on the board. Mark Waters runs it. Todd Huber, who runs the Skateboard Hall of Fame Museum, is on it. Laura Thornhill's on it. Lance is on it. Steve Olson's on it. I hope I'm not missing someone. I think Jeff Ho's on it now, actually. But they do their thing, and I've been doing the art for the event for the last 4 years. This year, I don't know what's going to happen because the world's crazy. So we're still working on that. Finally got Marty Grimes in, Ray Barbie in. It's like it's a good batch of people. It's just like, and I feel horrible that I'm blanking on everyone else that's getting in this year. It's been a weird year.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
did Ted Musk give up his for Cream Campbell?
That was going to happen. I forgot Musk is getting in. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with that or how that's going to work, but that'll be interesting. Again, because I'm not on the board, I have no inside information on that. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Hopefully it happens. That's all I could say. It might be put off until next year. I have no idea. I mean, just not being able to have concerts and not being able to have more than 50 people in a room or whatever. I think it's going to be definitely a logistical challenge to get that happening. So we wait and see, and hopefully it keeps going on. I know they're working on doing a kind of mini museum down in downtown LA with Salmon and Pizzanista, and that was another thing that, like, I think that was kind of I wasn't involved in that, but I think it was an interesting project, an interesting possibility. Like, Salmon's Pizza is so insane, and it was like right next door in a prime spot near 1700 Nod, where there's like just a cool scene, and it was like it's potentially going to be, I think they did 1 or 2 events there, but there's potentially going to be an event space and a skate park and an art gallery and a museum, and like that's what we need as a sport, where you can, like, Todd's doing it up in Simi Valley, but it's in Simi Valley, which is far from a lot of people, so it's hard to get to. But downtown LA would have been so dope. So I hope that happens in some capacity in the future. Because, like I said, I've been to a lot of art openings at 1700 Nod that Monster Children does, and it's such a great space. I wish it was skatable. I wish they had something up back. That would be like the ultimate. It's like if they could combine with Brooklyn Projects or someone and build something in the back. Like, I think that'd be pretty rad for the community.
That would be rad. But yeah, because we were supposed to do the live show at that space at Salmon, at the next door to Pizzanista. We were supposed to do that in July, but with everything that happened, it kind of like we're all doing live stream.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's crazy. And so I mean, like, so you don't even know what's going on with that. So it might.
I have no idea. And it's been like, like when I said I felt bad for not getting back to you this morning, and really it was yesterday. Time doesn't exist this year. It's just like everything's so crazy trying to keep track of everything. Plus, I have a kid now. I have a baby boy. So like that takes up a lot of my time, and just doing family stuff and working from home and whatever. So it's like there's some people that I talk to every day that I haven't talked to in years, and there's some people that I've talked to for years and I haven't talked to this year, because it's just like everyone's in a very different spot, with their lives and just with what's going on. So, but yeah, so.
No, it's definitely true. It's definitely true. I mean, everybody's on a different way. I mean, like, like example. I mean, I just took off for Florida for a year. Just to get out of California for a minute, just to wait to see what happens. And so I'm on a different time zone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, but the funny thing is even though I'm on this time zone, I'm still on the West Coast time zone. It's weird. My sleeping pattern is the West Coast time.
Yeah, that's how I was, and I still wake up at like 4:30 in the morning because I'm used to waking up at 8 in the morning, whatever. So, but
Your wife, what are you doing up so early? It's only 4. Like, dude, I know.
It's just stock now. Go to bed earlier, eat healthier, which is definitely good. But it's been a year. But like with all the negativity, there's positivity that is coming out with it, and part of that's CSEF. So,
tell us about that. What's going on with you guys?
We're giving out 9 scholarships this year, which is amazing, especially when things went the way they did, and things, in terms of, is college even happening in the fall, and what's happening with universities and all that, what's happening with teachers. But out of that, people are going back to school and people are doing online learning. So it's like, it was really good to be able to announce that. I hope I didn't give out a spoiler about how many people we're giving out, but we're giving out 9 scholarships this year. So that's another story going back to Tommy Barker. Like I said, is he started with Keegan and Naftali, CSEF, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think you said 3 years ago. I think
something like that. Again, time has no meaning anymore to me. But yeah, a couple of years ago, they started this thing, and they brought me on. So me and Pat are the art department. Josh Rowe helps out. We have a bunch of awesome volunteers that have been really consistent with us over the years and totally love helping out, which is amazing. And we've kind of carved out this little community that, like, there's so much amazing stuff going on that's related to skateboarding, but not specifically skateboarding. And we're kind of part of that. Like, we give out scholarships to skateboarders, and obviously you have to skate, but we also look at who needs it the most, who needs the money the most for their education, and also like what they are giving back to the community. So it's like, there are a lot of people we've given scholarships to, have built, they got skate parks built in their town, and it's people all over the country in towns I've never heard of. So it's like, it's rad that, like, this kid from this town is still trying to do something, and that there's a skate scene there, and you didn't know about it, and like, he might be the next person on the Olympic team, or the next, whatever.
Yeah.
So like, that's rad, just, meeting a lot of these kids. But, a big part of our focus is giving scholarships to people that are giving back to the industry and starting, if you're a girl in whatever town and you want to take skate lessons, someone's there for you. You have a safe, positive community building there. And that's the stuff that's rad. Like, there's, they talk about it on the Nine Club all day. Liking this part, this person skates these shoes, and all that stuff that's like kind of sport stats, which is not why I got into skateboarding. I got into skateboarding because you can skate by yourself, or you can skate with a couple of your friends. There isn't a high benchmark to get in, so like, there is all that stuff, but there is all like the smaller, I'm a weird kid that's an artist, and I want to design skateboard decks, and I do skateboard graphics, or I'm trying to start a local nonprofit, and that's kind of the stuff that we really push. And it's rad seeing that stuff come out of what we've been doing and hearing those stories. Yeah,
that's awesome. And how do people, skaters or people apply for this? Is there a form they need to apply for it, or videos they need to send to you guys? Or
if they go to collegeskateboarding.com, we have an application. We open applications like once a year, and they fill out an application. We take into account what their GPA is, what their financials are at home. If your parents are making $1 million a year, you're probably good. So I don't know if you need our scholarship. And we have some essays that they have to fill out. We have a questionnaire of kind of general stuff, but we really read all the essays. We got like 250 this year or something.
Hold on. You say you read 250 essays?
250 applications last year.
250 applications.
Yeah. And they all have multiple essays on it. Like it's definitely time consuming, but we have the five of us, I think, that I read less this year again because having the kid and stuff, and people are busy, so we split it up a little bit differently. But we get a lot of feedback, and it's like some of the stories are just like incredible, and it's people are incredible, and that's why we like skateboarding, because like skateboarding's kind of, it doesn't even make sense what's possible on a skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
With a football, you know what you're getting into. With a baseball, you know what you're getting into. With a skateboard, it's like when someone does some new shit that you've never seen before. Like, I think that's pretty special, and I think that's why people are into it. And I think that's why it's as popular as it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, just hearing the stories, and then hearing like the after stories, and hearing a recap, and then like keeping up with people. Like I have a couple of people from pretty much each year that we've given a scholarship that like we'll hit each other up every once in a while on DM and just chop it up about Black Sabbath, about music, about a documentary, like whatever, and it's just like, it's cool talking to people and hearing other people's perspectives on things, especially around the country where it's not all like, when you live in New York, you only know New Yorkers. When you live in LA, you only know California people. It's like hearing those perspectives, it's like, it's pretty rad. And like, oh, I made this happen in my town. It's like, it's a higher, it's kind of harder to achieve in a lot of ways in a place where it's not. If you're in San Clemente, you can get a skate park built. If you live in Arkansas, it's kind of different because your town has different priorities.
Yeah, or you're in Idaho. You're in Idaho, and there's not that much to do out there, and get a skate park. That's amazing,
Yeah. I will say though, in Idaho, I've seen some clips. Like there are some parks being built out there. There
is really.
They're amazing. Yeah, and like in Montana, places you wouldn't think of. Like Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam builds skate parks in towns up in Montana, and they're ridiculous.
What? Yeah, he builds. Hold on, he builds skate parks. That's awesome.
Yeah, he has a nonprofit, and they help towns build skate parks. Yeah,
dude, that's so rad, dude.
Yeah.
I never thought that. I never. Mm-hmm. That's fucking badass, dude.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And the park on his property, like there are clips. He went out with Don Pendleton. Mm-hmm. And skated his bowl, and it's like it's the most beautiful view ever, and it's like the most amazing bowl that you could skate with that view ever. It's ridiculous.
I'll have to look that up, man.
Yeah,
I didn't know the dude from Pearl Jam did that, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's a good skater too. Like that. I mean, that's what's cool too. Is like a lot of people that came up on this shit went on to do stuff like that. Like the dudes in Metallica, like there's a picture that it's out there and it's corny because they're holding like Volterra and Veriflex boards, but like they probably skated. The dudes from Anthrax definitely skated. Scotty skated. Like a lot of those dudes were just like, that was what you did back then. A lot of the graffiti guys, back in the day, I mean, that's what Zior came out of, was like graffiti and skateboarding.
Yep.
And that's what's cool, is it's like it is cross culture, and it's from out in the country to, the deepest parts of the city,
or across the world now. You know what I mean?
And everywhere. Totally. I mean, you can see like breakdancing in Japan still, and it's huge. It's like the Rocksteady crew formed in Japan I think in the 90s, and there's like that stuff's still going on. Crazy Legs is still around.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
And so, is it only for for people to apply for the CSEF? Is it only for United States, or is it worldwide?
Right now, we're just U.S.
Okay.
We had people asking from Canada.
Are you serious? That's awesome.
Yeah. Which is dope, because that means that we're getting our message out. And like, I have a love for Canada. A lot of good comedy came out of Canada. John Candy came out of Canada.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Came out of Canada. There's big punk scenes, and there's a big skate scene. I know at least in Vancouver, there's a big skate scene with Antisocial and the Crank and all that. And Sluggo, still Canadian fly out. Like there's cool stuff going on. So, I'd love that opportunity to happen. And then like with Neftali, because he's kind of global now in the skate academic world. like that's another thing that's opening up potential. And like Keegan has talked to some people at Skatistan and some overseas orgs. So it's like the reach is definitely there, and like that's ultimately that's kind of what I love about skateboarding is the orgs, and like I want to talk about that a little bit more. But like, you know, I did some design work for a nonprofit in Brooklyn called Stoked that does mentoring, and they kind of revolve it with skating and snowboarding, and it's high school, I think junior high and high school students, and kind of helping them form their path. And it's like that was kind of my entree into all of the nonprofit stuff, you know. But moving out here, you know, I just like on a I don't want to close it, but like on a closing thought, because I have the thought going across my head. Like if you're listening to this and you want to help, go help, because people want help. And if you can't find someone to help, start your own thing. You know, like Biscuit from the Big Boys, the Texas punk band, he said, you know, at the end of every show, now go start your own band. And like D Boone said that from the Minutemen, is like go make something. You know, so it's like there's so many groups out there right now of every capacity. There's Exposure down in Encinitas. That's an all women's, all girls skating. There's Skate Like a Girl. There's Grind. There's so many all over the place, and like that's what's adaptive skateboarding. I mean, you know, talk about skateboarding. Go look up adaptive skateboarding. Incredible. There's so much stuff going on, and it's like that's so empowering to anyone. And it's like I think it's the most empowering to 12-year-old me, knowing that in the future that this stuff is going to exist, and you can find a community where I didn't really have that as a kid. Like now it's so easy to get involved in any age and any capacity, and like I think that proves that we've made our mark on history above and beyond just the sport.
And it's crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it is crazy to think that. You know what I mean? Because when you said like, you know, us, you know, we're probably about maybe around the same age. You know,
44. Yeah.
Now 45. Now people know my age. Damn it.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I mean, our age, our era. You know what I mean? Like think about it. Think about it when we first started. We were just sitting there as with our homies and just sitting there and just skating and talking about, oh, how awesome would it be with skateboarding being Olympics? You know what I mean? Or skateboarding will be so recognized. How awesome would that be? And now you, me, other people who are still skateboarding from those days are seeing progress, seeing skateboarding Olympics, seeing all this stuff. It's amazing to think that, you know?
Yeah. And I think like going back to the punk rock thing, like what's kind of amazing about that, which applies to like what we're talking about now, is like with punk rock, you kind of make a lot with a little. And I think that's a good way to look at everything you do, is like making a lot with a little, because like all you need is $10 in a photocopier and you can make a zine. Or all you need is a busted guitar and you can start playing music. Or, you know, you need 3 friends and you start a band. You know, like it doesn't take a lot, and it doesn't take a lot of equipment. It doesn't take a lot of brain power. You know, it's just like you don't have to be a rocket scientist to start a punk band, but there are a lot of rocket scientists that started punk bands, which says something.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, think of how these bands started out. Well, who's what band? I can't remember, but started out. I mean, there's probably a lot of them, but they just started out in the garage, you know, when they're young. Who was that?
Every band ever.
Yeah, that's true. But
Descendants were 15 and they're still playing, you know, and that's like it's all they needed was a garage and their parents' approval, and you know, they did that, you know, and that's what's pretty rad, is like you can get, you know, you can call up the 5 bands in your town and have a festival in your backyard.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how skateboarding is too, is like, I'm not saying go out and steal stuff from construction sites, but it's been known to happen. Things disappear under bridges, but like,
I'm not saying you go keep my mouth shut on that one.
yeah. But like, you know, it doesn't take a lot to build a DIY spot. You know, you can go buy $40 worth of concrete and build a little bank on the side of, behind a grocery store or something.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%.
And like that's cool, and that's your spot, and you made it.
Or buy some anger iron, and you like that ledge that you always want to skate. Just put some anger iron, get some liquid screws, and some little anger iron on it, and there you go. You got to skate it.
Mm-hmm. And that's cool. And you don't need a warehouse and a training facility. And again, that's nice. But like, people with means a lot of the time they go farther because they have means to build a mega ramp in their backyard. But like, there are a lot of people that got just as famous not having anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was growing up. I mean, shoot, I used to get plywood from my backyard and just pile it up and practice my ollies over how high I can go, or put small trash cans and just, or whatever, plywood, and just put it as length and see how far I can ollie and do tricks over it and stuff like that.
Stacking on paint cans. Yeah, I mean, the best example is Rodney Mullen had a little square of concrete in his backyard in Florida, and he's Rodney Mullen now.
Yeah. It's true. And he's from Gainesville.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Good old Gainesville, UF.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's great. You know what I mean? It's crazy to think how far skateboarding went. It's going, not went, but it's going. And, and it looks like it's progressing more. And the main thing was what I'm 100% stoked on is women's skating, dude. Like how strong it went. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like before you would just see few girl skaters, like Lisa Steamer and I can't remember her name from New York. But yeah, there was a few.
Jamie Reyes,
yes.
Yeah.
And there's a few, but now it's so awesome to see how women's skating got so big, and it's awesome. Mad respect for every women skater out there who started from the very beginning to now and to push it to where it is now. It's amazing to see that.
Yeah, I mean, now is definitely it's such like everyone's included, and now it's like really cemented. And of course, everyone has their bullshit and they're not liking things or judging or whatever. But like, I think now is the best time because it is really the most inclusive that you can find, no matter what your deal is the best way to put it without getting specific. But like, whatever your deal is, there is a community for you.
Yeah.
They're non-binary skaters, they're LGBTQ, just everyone. And that's like that's what it's supposed to be. And like, that's kind of, to keep going back to the punk rock thing, that's what punk rock was it wasn't about who you are or what you look like. It was like what you're into and what you're putting into it.
Yeah.
And like, that's what's cool. And it's like, I remember, and he's another, like, I'm pretty sure he's a Dogtown dude, Marlon Whitfield.
Yeah, I think he was Dogtown.
Yeah, like he says in Another State of Mind, like, I'm gonna, the rednecks are gonna mess with me because I'm black, so it's like I might as well have a blue mohawk.
Yeah,
like that. And that, like, I heard him say that, 30 years ago at this point, 25 years ago, whenever the first time was I saw that documentary, and I was like, that says it right there, that everyone, no matter who you are, you can find this family because you have that music in common, and you have, what Minor Threat built and what Youth Brigade built and what, all the communities around the world. Like, that's powerful,
100%, I mean, and think about it, like in other sports like football, baseball, all that, you don't see women football players or women basketball players. There is women basketball players, but baseball players, you know what I mean? Like, and for skateboarding and surfing and snowboarding, the whole stream thing, it's huge. And especially for skateboarding, because skateboarding has always been, a guy's club or whatever, you know what I mean? But now it's more accepted for all types, like what you said,
Yeah.
It's great. It's awesome to see that. Like when I go skate parks, I see these like little 6-year-old girls out there skateboarding and killing it.
And killing it, exactly.
I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, dude! Like, you're 6.
Oh,
Damn,
totally. And like
killing
also
it.
the differentiator, honestly, between us and a lot of other sports is a lot of them. There isn't participation and there isn't a lifestyle attached to it. And I mean, I guess people could say that about football, in that there's like the fan aspect of it, and there's playing touch football on Thanksgiving outside your house or whatever. But it's not a lifestyle. Maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, for me, like, and for most, most
It's
everyone,
not really lifestyle.
skating.
No, football is.
Oh, everything else. Yeah, it's kind of just like there's the fan aspect of it where you play it, but it's not like really a lifestyle that like it gets into everything else, and it gets into your brain and you can't turn it off. But also like as a subculture, which I hate using that word kind of, but like it really influences so many other things in terms of like, fashion. You see Jeremy Scott ripped off the Roscop graphics a bunch of years ago and put them on dresses. And it was at Fashion Week. So it was like, the co-opting of it and how it leaches into every commercial about car insurance and, whatever else. Like, that's another thing that's really powerful. And that's what kind of makes it great, but also makes it weird. And it gets into like a whole other touchy subject of, when do things go too far? What is pure, stuff like that. Things that they talk about on Slap, basically, which I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. What people debate about, and everyone has opinions. I mean, everyone has opinions about everything. So, you can't make everyone happy. But everyone can be happy skateboarding. You just ignore other people and just keep, like Lance said, you don't have to be great. I mean, I don't remember the quote off the top of my head, but like it's more about having fun ultimately.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. That's what skateboarding is all about. It's about having fun. It's not about like what cool guy club you're part of, or what you wear and what you dress or music listen to. It's just about just jumping on your board and just cruising. You know what I mean? And just doing a little slapping on a curb or all 50-50 or whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? This is what skateboarding is all about. It's just having fun and enjoying it,
Yeah.
And to your thing about the fashion thing, it's definitely true. Because I mean, you think about it, like skateboarding. Unless I had an interview, talk to somebody about this, and one of them on this live show or on the podcast or something. I don't remember, but we talked about it. And I said it's crazy to think how skateboarding represents, like, the fashion world watches what skateboarders wear, and then all of a sudden they turn around and they copy what we wear. You know what I mean? Like everybody watches us. And honestly, and that's where I'm going to come out to a different way, but it's awesome to do that, because when there's people who like T-Bone and Shrieking and all them doing that roll for what's it called, rolling for SD or rolling for SD, I can't remember what it's called, but doing stuff like that, it's great, because it's showing the skate community of San Diego together. Not just San Diego, but all skate communities get together and making them a change. They're trying to make a change, and that's what's awesome. And hopefully other people will see that and be like, wow, dude, these dudes are really making a change in their community, and that's fucking awesome. We need to do that. You know what I mean? You can go to Idaho and make changes there doing the same thing. You can do different things. It's just, I don't know, I'm just babbling. But what I'm just trying to say is it's great to see, skateboarding showing the rest of the world, like, hey, you know what? We got all types of colors and people and sexes and whatever in skateboarding, and we see them as one,
Yeah, totally.
It's just, I don't know. It's just crazy. You just made me think about all that. So when we were talking about fashion and everything, I know I went off the subject a little bit, but it's just great to see that skateboarding is like that. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. It's just crazy. If everybody can I just wish the rest of the world can see how we all connect to each other and all protect each other, and we're all brother and sisterhood. And everybody just watch what we're doing. You know what I mean? Figure out how we are ones.
Yeah, and I mean, with that though, it's also like it's really interesting to see how, you know, I guess you could say skateboarding has leached out into other things, like because it's influenced other things. It also creates opportunities in other fields that maybe weren't there before. Like we had Spike Jones before Hollywood had Spike Jones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have Laban. I know you interviewed Laban, and he's doing film stuff. And we had Aaron Rose, who went on to do all his LA. He's working with Ruka. He's doing the Artist Network with them, and all the Beautiful Loser stuff. And it's like all that stuff creates jobs for other skaters. Because like a lot of people will ask me, how do you get in the skate industry? And usually I say I don't know because I don't work in the skate industry. I don't. I have a day job. Like I work as a designer.
It's basically how to get into the skate industry. It's who you know. I mean, that's
I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. It's kind of like you have to create your own opportunity. Because I've talked to a lot of people, and they're like, oh, I want to write for the skate industry, and it's like, but are you a writer? And they go, no, I skate. And it's like, you need to be a writer first.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So it's like, I think it's kind of the same way. If you're a photographer, it's like, I want to be a professional skate photographer. It's like, well, are you a really good photographer first? So it's like, I think you have to create your opportunity. And then I think it goes back to that family thing of like, then you find your community and you see how you can work with other people that have taken that path.
Yeah. And you got to build that community and build it to put your name out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't just jump in the industry and be like, oh, I'm here, I'm going to take photos of everybody, but people are not going to use you because they don't know who you are,
Yeah. And I'm also honest with a lot of people when I say it's hard to make money in the skate industry unless you're pro skater.
High five to that, Ian. High five to the thing.
Yeah. Because I think it's honestly hard being just a writer or just a photographer, especially with like how easy it is to publish things now. Mm-hmm. So trying to get that specific, I think, is really hard. And I think now, because more people are trying to do it, that makes it even harder because then you need that presence online, so it's like, that's where your network comes in, that if you're pretty good, someone might give you a chance to do something versus like being an outsider and showing up at the I Ask Summit and hopefully it works out.
No, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
It's definitely true. Cause I mean, it's people think there's money in the skateboard industry. There is no money in the skateboard industry.
Yeah.
It's all about who you know, what you know, and what you do, and and the best thing to do is what you said, and we both agree on is start in your community and take photos and do right. Start your own small little zine out of your community for help promote your community, and that's what builds your name and get people knows who you are. I mean, honestly, that's what me and Carl did. Carl shoots photos, and and we were just, one day we just sat down. We're like, dude, let's just do our own thing. And 10 years later, look at us now.
And that's usually what it is.
Yeah, we just do this for fun and love, and just that's it.
Yeah. Like a good example of that is like, if you look at where Run the Jewels is at now, and like I loved all that Def Jux hip hop back in the day, in early 2000s, and it's like it was such a small thing, it was such like a small pocket of the country, and like there's another big like kind of backpack hip hop thing in Minnesota and Minneapolis. Like it's such a small thing, but then once you hit your stride, I think that's when you blow up, and it's like trying to get to that stride.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. It's crazy. It's a lot of hard work, I'll tell you that. But Ian, so do you have anything you want us to tell anybody? Like anything you want to tell the audience, the viewers, the listeners, all the above? Anything you want to say to them?
My closing thoughts.
Your closing thoughts.
Be good to people. is a good place to start. Always be good to people. You don't know who you're standing next to. You don't know who you're going to run into. Just always be good to people. Help people out. And that like comes from my, my punk rock roots of, you gotta support your family and all that, and skate, you have to support your family, but like ultimately just like help as much as you can, and we've created this culture of observing with Instagram and all this other bullshit. No, like people aren't making it seems like, I might be wrong, but it seems like people aren't making as much stuff. They're, it's more input than output. And I'm guilty of it 1,000% too. I talk to my wife about it all the time and we're trying to change that. But like, be making art because you don't want art to die. Be building skate parks because you want skate parks to be here for the next generation. Start your nonprofit, and when you can't deal with it anymore, hand it off to someone who will. Like don't let things die, because like with the way the world's going, it's really easy for things to just disappear into the fray. And it's like, these things are important. They're things that help you think. They help you process the way the world is. Ultimately, you have your skater's eye and your skater's mind, and you look at things differently. And like you can shape what's happening around you. So it's like I think that's it. Help people out. Keep skating. Craig Stesick said the key to getting through life is staying interested. And that, he said that at Agenda like 5 years ago, and that's been my mantra since I heard it. It's like staying interested in yourself and what's going on around you, and supporting your friends. Stop buying Kanye sneakers because he doesn't need any more money, and buy your friend's artwork. That's like the biggest thing. Like stop buying rich people's shit and start supporting local businesses. Support your local skate shop. That's all. It's all Bush League stuff. This is how we're going to keep it going.
It's true, man. Support your local businesses and local brands. And Ian, you're 100% right, dude. Stop buying Air Jordans. Support people's artwork. When you go to art shows, buy people artwork. Just don't go there for the free food and drinks, people.
Exactly.
That's a whole different subject. We'll come back and do a whole different
part 3. Part 3, but yeah, I mean that's
a good closing. I think that was the best closing I heard so far, man. That was a good one.
I'll take it.
That was a good one. And one last thing, where can people go to fill out forms for CSEF?
They can go to collegeskateboarding.com and hit us up. And if you're in Southern California, or when the world goes back to normal, we'll be doing some events in some other places. Hit us up and say you're interested. If you want to volunteer, we appreciate it. If you want to donate, we'll happily. We're all volunteer. We don't take any kind of pay or anything. Every donation, every T-shirt we sell, every sticker, whatever we're selling, all the money goes to scholarships for skaters. 100%. Like not 100%. We have some expenses, web hosting and all that stuff, but all of it's going back in. We're not taking a cut.
And where can people follow you guys on social media?
It's at CSEF.
Okay.
And I'm in dashes on all the things, all the Insta things.
All the Insta things.
Twitter and whatever. But yeah, but like that's a big thing that we put out there a lot with CSEF too, is we all are, we all volunteer, 98% of the money goes back to students, and that's what we're all about. Every nonprofit has their web hosting, and they have to buy stamps, and they have to buy T-shirts to sell T-shirts and stuff like that. But like it's dope that we don't have any overhead. We're all in Southern California, so we're all within an earshot, so that's really good. And we've had events at the barracks. We had our first event was at Booze Brothers. Like we've had some pretty cool things happen in the last couple of years, and we're still small, but we're still going, and we've handed out, I don't want to quote the number off the top of my head, 30, something like that, 30 scholarships in a couple of years. And that's pretty powerful that, anything you can give to someone, they'll take it to buy books or, pay for credits or whatever it is. Like we're working on going as big as we can get is our goal. to give as much back and to get every kid that wants to go be a nurse or a doctor or a neuroscientist or a philosopher or whatever. We want to get them the education they need, and they deserve it because, they do this. They don't play football because they don't get a football scholarship. They get a skate scholarship, and that's kind of what it's all about. And that's a dope story to tell people too. You can put it on your resume. You got a skate scholarship.
Dude, I want a skate scholarship.
Yeah,
Shit.
yeah.
Where was this when I was in high school, man?
Tell me about it.
Well, Ian, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
I just want to let people know the next TSM live show, season 3, episode 6, is going to be a great one. It's going to be on September 13th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. East Coast time. Definitely, tune in on that for September 7th, September 13th. And Ian, dude, thank you so much for being on the show, man. You did a great job, dude, and I'm so proud of you, man. You're what you're doing over here on the West Coast, man. You're killing it, brother.
That's why I moved here. It's like it's working out, and like I said, anyone I can help.
Oh yeah, dude.
Hit me up.
Yeah. Hey, the universe brought you over here. They're like, hey, you know what? We're done with you in New York, man. We're overseeing you in New York 20 years. You need to come over for another 20 years on the West Coast.
There you go.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much, man. And hey, I wish you the best of luck in everything you do, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem, brother. Peace.
All right, man. Later.
Later.